A while ago, I was having a conversation with somebody about the little USB ports on the side of a laptop. And I know that sounds random, but bear with me. I promise I have a point. Anyway, so what he was telling me was that if I'm frequently plugging or unplugging things into those various USB A, USB C, whatever the fuck ports, then I should get this little device. I don't know what it's called, but basically what the device does was it plugged into the USB port and you would keep it there all of the time so that when you plugged something in, you weren't plugging it directly into the computer, you were plugging it into the device. And the reason for this was because apparently if you frequently plug things and unplug things in the computer, it can fuck up the little ports, break the little things on the inside, and then you have to get a new computer. Now, I thought about this for a moment, and in all of my time of using my computer, various computers, and plugging shit in, even the computer charger is a USB-C plug, I have never had the issue of breaking the port itself. And I said this to this gentleman, and he told me that he watched a whole entire YouTube video about how it was that that has taken place. I asked him, or how it was that that takes place. It is a thing or a common thing that occurs. I asked him if he had ever himself personally broken any of his charging cords or whatever the fuck in the USB ports. He told me no, but he still saw fit to get the device to plug into the thing based on the idea that it might break. And if you think about this farther, you plug shit into your phone, whether that was the old little auxiliary jacks or the lightning ones or the US, I don't know what the fuck your phone is, but you plug the shit into the phone and no one ever has a problem with it breaking. I mean, maybe some people's break, but if so, it's not very often. And to me, in my mind, that sounded to me like a thing that was made up specifically to get people to buy their weird little USB plug product. And that reminded me of how back in the day, if you've ever had like only basic cable. I don't know your degree of poorness throughout life, but just the standard channels that you get that come on the antenna TV before everyone watched everything on the internet or everybody had the box cable. But they had these channels that if you watched them late enough at night or randomly during the middle of the day, the only thing on the channel would be infomercials, which was basically a long drawn out ass commercial. And I remember on these infomercials, they would sell things like they had a special ceramic knife and they sold an egg peeler, things of that nature. And I remember watching the advertisements for them. My mother would actually comment on this all of the time too. It was a specific one of someone trying to cut a tomato with a regular knife, and they were trying and failing over and over again to cut this tomato. And she would get so mad. She'd be like, "Who tries to cut tomatoes like that?" But the person in the commercial was incredibly inept and could not figure out how to cut a tomato with a standard run-of-the-mill store-bought knife. They had the same thing with the people trying to peel the eggs in the advert for the egg peeler. People try to crack open the eggs or peel the shell off, and the whole entire egg would fall on the floor. They'd break the whole shit, and then they would give up in frustration. Something like that would happen with all the things. There was one thing I remember called a slap chop, where it's like a little cylinder thing. You smack the top of it with like it had a bunch of little blades in the middle to cut up vegetables or I don't know what the fuck else you're supposed to cut with it, quite honestly. I don't remember it being used to cut vegetables. But you had the slap chop. It was supposed to make cutting vegetables super easy because according to the demonstration of the person cutting the vegetables, it was a daunting and arduous task, unfit for standard tools. And your slap chop would make the job not only so much easier, but even feasible to begin with, at least according to the commercial. Now, all of these things were products that people had created but didn't necessarily know how to market because they were as a whole superfluous. You don't need an egg peeler. You could peel an egg with your fucking hands. Regular knives cut tomatoes and bread, and regular knives cut vegetables as well. But these people decided to make it look like cutting tomatoes with a regular knife was a damn near impossible task. So there was, it probably still is, a large subsection of people who saw those commercials And they themselves never before had a problem with cutting tomatoes. They never had a problem peeling eggs. They never had a problem cutting vegetables. If they did that to begin with, who the fuck knows? But the point is, they never had a problem with it before they saw this commercial. And then they saw the commercial of the people on TV and thought, wow, that really is a difficult task. In order to make my life better, I need a slap chop. I need a special ceramic tomato knife. I don't know what the fuck it was for specifically, but I need a special knife. I need an egg peeler because otherwise there's no way to enjoy my delicious hard-boiled eggs because I lack the necessary dexterity to peel eggs as nature intended. It's impossible for regular people. So they went out, they called these numbers, got out their credit cards, went to the as seen on TV store in the mall, whatever the fuck time it was that they saw it, and they bought these various devices that were sold to them as a way to make their life easier. But really, all that they did was create a problem so that they could sell a solution to it. And if you look out in the world, you will see that a lot of supposed problems are only framed as problems so that people could buy the solution to them. Everything that you were told is some sort of difficult task is not a difficult task. You're just being told that it's a difficult task because people have a solution to provide to you for it. Even taking it a step farther, if you look at the concept of real estate agents, the real estate agents are in no way a necessity, but because they are present, their only job exists as a middleman between a seller and a buyer. They make it appear as though they are a necessary part of the transaction because it's too complicated for you to figure out. It's too difficult for you to figure out all of this shit without them. But I have years of experience in real estate, and that's not true whatsoever. It is actually a relatively straightforward process that anyone can do. But the existence of the agents has made you think that the agents are a necessity. So a lot of the economy, whatever it is that you would like to call it, is built on the creation of problems in order to sell solutions. And what that makes me think of is everyone's favorite thing, which is mental health medications. I know a lot of people take issue with that as a whole, but that's because they are married to their excuses. And a lot of these things give them excuses to not do better, to not try harder, to not improve themselves, to not act in ways that they should actually be acting, or to subvert people's expectations of them. But that is an entirely different topic. The point that I'm making here is the pharmaceutical industry as a whole, like any other industry, like the automobile industry, it doesn't exist to provide people vehicles. It exists to sell vehicles. So it's in the best interest of the automotive industry to have people continuously buying cars. One of the reasons that cars aren't built to last forever and they come out with new models every single year. Because if everyone buys a car one time and they're good forever, well, then the industry will go out of business, as will literally any other thing that requires you to purchase something. If you're not going to purchase something on a continual basis, then all of those industries would be incredibly short-lived. So it would stand to reason that the same exact thing is true of the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical industry makes drugs to help you with various illnesses, various problems, whatever the case. But if they could make a pill that would cure all of your illnesses, people think that there would be a lot of money in doing that. But in fact, the opposite is true, because the more that people need to take drugs, the more that they're going to spend on the drugs. If you could take NyQuil once and it would get rid of your cold forever, then Vicks, I believe is the company who makes NyQuil, would eventually go out of business, because what the fuck else are you going to do? You took their shit one time? No. So even if they could make it work one time forever, it wouldn't be in their best interest to do so. So it's in their best interest that you continuously take this thing. It works for 12 hours, you gotta take another dose, whatever the fucking case may be. Whether that's a limit of technology or design, it doesn't matter. Either way, the design would be the smarter thing to do. So the problem with regular medicine is people only buy cold medicine when they have a cold. And everyone doesn't have a cold all of the time. And you know, if you have a cold, it's not something that you need to go to a doctor to diagnose. It's not like you need to be told whether or not you're sneezing and have a runny nose and coughing and shit like that. You know that you're like, okay, cool, I go buy the medicine. But people only go buy the medicine when they're sick. But if you can take regular things and convince people that it's a problem, in the similar manner kind of to brushing your teeth, and that you have to brush your teeth 2 times a day, or multiple times a day, however the fuck many, in order to prevent the bones in your mouth from decaying. So it's a thing that people are constantly doing. If you could take any other regular thing and make it seem like it's that same sort of thing, and the only way to fix that thing is for them to get your product, well, then you have a customer for life. So when you take something and you say, you're sad, and the reason that you're sad is because something is wrong with your brain, and the solution to that is to take the pills that we're selling. Our pills will fix your sadness. So everyone's sad, and you don't have to convince people that they're sad. You only have to convince people that them being sad is a problem, which is very easy to do because, as I stated earlier, people are naturally averse to effort. They don't like to try things. People want to be happy, but they don't want to do what it takes to be happy. So if you're not happy, it's because you're not doing something to make yourself happy. But no one wants to take that level of accountability, and very few people have that level of self-awareness to say that I am the architect of my own sadness. It's much easier and more pleasant to believe that I'm sad because something is wrong with me. So because something is wrong with you, because you are sad, therefore you need these pills. And these pills are of the nature that you have to continue taking them for the remainder of your life. And I know that it's pleasant and happy for people to think that the pills were created to solve the mental health problems, but that, in my personal opinion, is not the case. People, even if you look at the history of the SSRIs, the happiness pill it wasn't intentionally invented. It was a or it was a byproduct of trying to make it for something else. And also, if you go look at the timeline of stuff around the time that which is Prozac I'm talking about, Prozac came out, is the time that they started more talking about shit like seasonal affective disorder. So what they thought is, we have a pill that makes you happy, so let's tell people that being sad is something that you need a pill to cure. And people, not liking to take responsibility, jump on top of it. So now every time something is wrong with someone, they go looking for drugs. They have a pill that helps you focus, so they tell you that not being able to focus is a result of something being wrong with you rather than something that you were doing. So you think all of these things are wrong with you, and your solution is these pills. And because it's something wrong with you, because it's your brain being wired non-traditionally, there's nothing you can do about your fucking brain wiring or your brain chemistry. It's just a fucking thing that exists. So because of the nature of what it's sold to you as, you infinitely need these pills. And if you take it a step further, when you go get a prescription for these pills, you go to a psychiatrist, whose sole job is to diagnose these disorders and provide medication for you. So if you go to a mechanic and the mechanic tells you that something is wrong with your car, on some level, everyone understands that the mechanic has a motive or a vested interest in something being wrong with your vehicle. They have the thing all the time when I talk about the mechanics trying to tell women that extra stuff is wrong with their car because they think that they don't know. So when you go to any sort of person who has a vested interest in you doing a thing, of course they're going to tell you that you need to do that thing. All real estate agents will tell you that the best investment is buying a house because they need you to believe that, because their whole entire business model is based on the fact that people need to buy homes and or sell homes to buy new homes. So just like if you go to a car dealership, they will always recommend that you get a new car, but you're not going to assume that you blanketly need a new car simply because a car dealer tells you that you need one. It's in their best interest for you to believe that you need to buy a new car so that they can sell you a new car and buy you a new car. So when you extrapolate this out and take it to the psychiatrist who spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to over a half-decade worth of schooling to figure out how different pills work, specifically so they could sit in an office and assign people pills, it would also stand to reason that because their career, all of the student loans that they have, their livelihood, their well-being is dependent on the idea that people need these pills. But people take these diagnoses from these psychiatric professionals as though they're like the word of God. But if you think about it even a little bit, any degree of common sense will tell you that it's in their best interest to prescribe you with something because they have diagnosed you with something. If they turned away 90% of the people that went there, well, then eventually you would realize that there's actually no point to them and they would be out of a job, or at the very least demand a much lower pay than they currently do, because very few people actually need their services. And these are all concepts and ideas that people are able to apply to different things. But when it comes to the idea of mental health and these various disorders, people seem to have some sort of block. For whatever reason in their mind, they cannot reconcile the idea that all of this, all of that shit, is just an extended marketing ploy to get people taking all of these things to turn people into infinite customers, and all of the people who are prescribing you these things have a vested interest. There's not the same degree of money from these various industries in telling people that you need to go work out and you need to eat right. There's not the same degree of money in telling people that if you have a problem in your life, you can sit there, you can figure it out. Well, what's making you sad? You're not happy with where it is that you are, you're not happy with what it is that you are doing. Those are all changeable things. But the problem with that is those things are not things that require intervention from the pharmaceutical industry or the psychiatric industry, which is functionally an extension of the pharmaceutical industry. People are unwilling to accept this thing. My personal belief on that is because they prefer the excuses. It's much easier to have a thing to blame than it is to blame yourself. It never feels good to say that I have fucked up my own life and that's why I'm feeling fucked up. But there is a lot of power in that accountability. When you're refusing to accept it, you're also rejecting the ability to change. If you think that some nebulous forces have randomly cursed you with all of these maladies, then there's nothing that you could do about it. You're just a victim to circumstances and random chance. But if you accept that it's a result of something that you've been doing, then you have the power to fix it. But again, on this other side, there's no money in that. And none of this is to say that the idea of being depressed or being anxious or even having some degree of ADD, ADHD, I don't know the fucking difference, don't honestly care. But it's not to say that none of these things exist, or that it's not to say that any of these things don't exist in some form. I'm simply saying that none of them exist as a disorder. If you're feeling depressed, it's because you're doing something wrong and or not doing something that you know to be right. It's a result of what it is that you're doing. It's your brain letting you know, hey, you are fucking up in your life in some capacity. You are slacking off or you are moving in the wrong direction. Either way, but both of those things are very fixable in the same way that if you're feeling anxious, anxiety is nothing but a amplified awareness of your own incompetence. People get anxious about stuff that's coming up because they feel like it's something that they're not going to be able to handle. This might happen, or this might happen, or this might happen. But the underlying thought behind every single one of those things is, I don't know what to do in that situation. So if you take what it is that you're feeling anxious about, you have a presentation coming up, you have, that's the only example I can think of right now for whatever the fuck reason. You have a presentation that you're feeling anxious about that's coming up, then the appropriate thing to do is not to take drugs so you don't care about it anymore. That's your brain telling you, hey, you're not as prepared as you should be. Because if you were more prepared, you wouldn't be feeling anxious like this. So you take that as your cue and you prepare more for said presentation. You go over all the shit that you need to say. You make sure your slides or whatever the fuck your presentation looks like is flawless. You make sure that everything that you're going to say is amazing and wonderful and well thought through and research to whatever degree it is that's necessary based on whatever it is that your field may be. I don't know, there's lots of variations. You understand the fucking premise of a presentation though. What you do is you make sure that you are as prepared as possible for that presentation, and that will alleviate that anxiety there for whatever the fucking case may be. It's always future based. It's always the idea that something is going to happen in the future and you're not going to be prepared for. It's not going to go well for you. And all of those, again, are a result of the fact that you were not prepared for this shit. You have to get dressed every single day. No one is anxious about the idea of getting dressed the next day because you personally are qualified and prepared to get dressed. You've been doing it your whole fucking life. It's absolutely nothing to worry about. But when it becomes something that's somewhat foreign to you, then the anxiety grows because you're not prepared for it, you're not used to it, you're not accustomed to it. And all of those things are very fixable simply by practice, simply by upping your various skill sets in whatever area of life. You have full control over those things. Same thing if you're not able to focus, it's because you've trained yourself to not be able to focus. You always get distracted looking at shit. People drive up the street now and can't go a mile without pulling their phone up. All of that's contributing to the fact that you can't do one thing and focus on one thing at a time. You can't even drive 10 minutes up the street without looking at your phone. You can't watch TV without scrolling through fucking Instagram or Facebook or whatever the fuck it is that you look on your phone. People always need to be doing multiple things. Or the same people who scroll through all of the TikTok videos. And I saw a statistic fact, whatever the fuck it is that you would like to call it, that the average view length of the average TikTok video is like 2-3 seconds. So people watch the thing for 2 seconds, it doesn't entertain them, boom, flip onto the next thing. There's even a statistic if you have a stat on the Instagram if you have a creator and or business account where it will tell you the average amount of views past the first 3 seconds because their data says that the average person will view a video for less than 3 seconds. And all of that shit is training you to not be able to focus on stuff. These are all trained things. You could train yourself in the opposite direction. So again, I'm not saying that none of these things are real. I'm not saying that none of these things don't exist in some capacity. I'm saying that the idea of them as a malady, as a disease or disorder or something like that outside of your control, it's just the way that your brain is wired and there's nothing that you could do about it, is nothing more than marketing material because these people convince you that the fuck. Anyway, these people convince you that all of these normal things that happen to almost everybody are problems. Are you not happy all the time? Something is wrong with you. Are you overly happy sometimes? Something is wrong with you. Can you not focus? Something is wrong with you. Do you not always, if you look at one of the symptoms of depression, it's not getting the same level of joy from things that you always got. That's just how fucking things work. If your favorite food is pizza and all you eat is pizza, eventually you will grow tired of pizza. That's not because something is wrong with you. That's just because you have adapted to that stimuli and it's not the same level of stimulating. If you go to the gym and you bench press every single day and you bench press 135 pounds every single day, eventually you are not going to get for 5 reps, 135 pounds, 5 reps every single day. Eventually you are not going to get any sort of stimulation and or growth out of the thing. It's not because something's wrong with you. It's not because bench pressing itself doesn't work. It's because you're doing the exact same thing over every single day with no changes or no advances or no break or no variety, whatever the fucking case may be. In any field or any not field in any avenue, doing the same thing over and over again is never going to produce the exact same stimuli, but they have convinced you that that's a problem. If watching TV used to make you happy and now watching TV doesn't make you happy anymore, it's because you've realized that there is more to life than watching TV and you want to explore that. But rather than trying to figure that out, rather than trying to say, maybe life is not all about watching these other people's lives, maybe it's about living my own, maybe it's about bettering myself, maybe instead of keeping up with the Kardashians, I should keep the fuck up with me and improve myself and go after all of these random goals that I want. I love seeing them living in their fucking, I don't know where the fuck they live, Beverly Hills house, Calabasas, some shit, I don't know. But I would like to live in a Calabasas house. Let me figure out a way to do that. Let me figure out a way to increase my income. Let me figure out a way to up my status in life so that I can do these things that I'm watching. No, you go and you pop a pill so that you could go right back to doing exactly what it is that you were doing. But what it is that you were doing is the reason that you were in the position that you want. That you are in currently. And that's what these people are trying to convince you of. But again, nobody is open to that idea. They have this weird mental block when it comes to this shit. For whatever the fuck reason, again, my theory is excuses and comfort. But they have this weird mental block. Everyone knows that the pharmaceutical industry is evil, but that stops when it comes to mental health pills. Everyone knows that the pharmaceutical industry is exploitative, some shit like that. But that stops when it comes to the fucking mental health pills. There was a whole entire thing. There's documentaries all over Netflix, all over YouTube, all over where the fuck it is that you look about the opioid epidemic and how the pharmaceutical companies were giving people kickbacks, the doctors kickbacks to prescribe people pain pills that they don't need, that they also lied about the addictive nature of. But for some reason, they can't take that same thing and apply it to their precious fucking depression pills. And it is because they want a fucking excuse. Again, maybe you're depressed. Maybe you're anxious. Maybe you have ADD. Maybe you have whatever the fuck other letter combination or whatever it is that you would like to have. Maybe you suffer from feeling those ways. But it's not because something is wrong with you. It's because you're doing something wrong.